This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening to our viewers in the West, and thank you for joining us. There is no love lost between President Trump and his former chief strategist Steve Bannon tonight, after Bannon was quoted in a forthcoming new tell-all book accusing the president's son of a treasonous act and suggesting the special counsel investigation may be on the right track. The book, based on 200 interviews, has President Trump firing back, saying Bannon, one of the early architects of his presidency, has lost his mind. Our Peter Alexander has much more.
Tonight, explosive new claims from Steve Bannon, insisting that controversial 2016 Trump Tower meeting between the president's son and a group of Russians was treasonous and unpatriotic, noting Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort, all in attendance, should have called the FBI immediately.
Did the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., commit treason?
I think that is a ridiculous accusation.
Bannon, who didn't join the campaign for another 2 months, asserts there's zero chance Trump Jr. didn't introduce his Russian guest to his father. They're going to crack Don Jr. like an egg on national TV, Bannon warns. The White House has said the president first learned about the meeting a year later. Trump today fuming.
I think furious, disgusted would probably certainly fit when you make such outrageous claims and completely false claims against the president, his administration, and his family.
The president unloading in an extraordinary, blistering statement. Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. Adding, Steve doesn't represent my base. He's only in it for himself. But President Trump showered Bannon with praise shortly after his departure.
Steve's been a friend of mine for a long time. I like Steve a lot.
Bannon gives credence to the special counsel's probe. This is all about money laundering, noting Manafort's indictment, arguing Robert Mueller's going after the president by zeroing in on some of those closest to him.
This may be strategic by Bannon to try and demonstrate that he had no part in conduct that he may perceive as risky by other members of the Trump team.
Fire and fury, reportedly based on more than 200 interviews, many conducted inside the West Wing, also reignites questions about Mr. Trump's view of women, reportedly calling aide Hope Hicks a piece of tail in front of her, and using a vulgar expletive to describe Sally Yates, the acting attorney general, who he would go on to fire. As for his inauguration day, the soon-to-be president, author Michael Wolff writes, was angry, feeling slighted by the Obamas and celebrities who refused to perform for him. Bearing the brunt, Melania Trump, who, according to the book, seemed on the verge of tears. The First Lady's office dismissing it all as fiction. Wolff claims first daughter Ivanka and husband Jared Kushner have entertained their own political future, agreeing she'd be the one to run for president. The author also airing dirty laundry about the president's unusual habits and demands at the White House, reprimanding the housekeeping staff for picking up his shirt, saying, "If my shirt's on the floor, it's because I want it on the floor."
Peter, a lot packed in there. You mentioned Paul Manafort. Tonight we're learning that he is suing Robert Mueller and the Justice Department. Why?
Yeah, Lester, that's right. Manafort filing that lawsuit against Mueller and Jeff Sessions' deputy at the Justice Department, who green-lighted hiring Mueller as special prosecutor. Manafort's lawyers are arguing that the investigation is basically illegal, that Mueller's authority is too broad. The suit claims Mueller's been given carte blanche to look into anything he stumbles across, no matter how remote. Lester?
Peter Alexander at the White House tonight. Thank you. All of this coming as President Trump escalates his feud with Kim Jong-un, the president taunting Kim on Twitter, warning that he has a, quote, much bigger and more powerful nuclear button than the North Korean leader does. NBC White House correspondent Kristen Welker has the details.
Tonight, tensions between North and South Korea seeming to decrease. The two bitter enemies talking on a DMZ hotline for the first time in 2 years. But President Trump now raising that temperature in a fiery tweet after Kim Jong-un threatened he had a nuclear button and the U.S. in his range. President Trump writing, "Will someone from his depleted and food-starved regime please inform him that I too have a nuclear button, but it is a much bigger and more powerful one than his, and my button works." The tweet sending shockwaves, including from former Vice President Joe Biden.
The only war that's worse than one that's intended is one that's unintended. This is not a game. It's not presidential.
Former national security officials say tone matters.
The danger with bellicose language or imprecise language via tweet or otherwise is that you run the risk of escalation, you run the risk of miscalculation, and at a time of tension with North Korea, can be very dangerous.
Tonight, defending the tweet, the White House questioning the, quote, mental fitness of the North Korean dictator.
Isn't it dangerous for the president to be taunting on Twitter?
I don't think that it's taunting to stand up for the people of this country. I think what's dangerous is to ignore the continued threats.
Sarah, it's a taunting tweet to say that he has a larger nuclear button.
I think it's just a fact.
While Kim Jong-un claims to have a nuclear button, the reality in the U.S., there isn't one. Instead, President Trump is followed at all times by a nuclear football, this briefcase carried by military officials with codes that could transmit a launch order. All of it would involve a conversation between the president and his top military officials.
The president's very well aware of how the process works and what the capacity of the United States is, and I can tell you that it's greater than that of North Korea.
Some foreign policy experts warn today's conversation between North and South Korea and the possibility of future talks could undercut the United States' relationship with South Korea, but officials here dispute that and stress the strong bond between the U.S. and its ally. Lester.
All right, Kristen Welker, thank you. Now to our other big story we're following, the major storm bearing down on the eastern seaboard. Blizzard warnings now up along parts of the northeast coast after ice and snow moved over the southeast today, a so-called bomb cyclone taking aim with hurricane-force winds, and the brutal cold is already being blamed for contributing to at least 20 deaths. In a moment, we'll have the very latest forecast, but first, here's NBC's Katie Beck in the storm zone.
The year's first major snowstorm bringing the South to a standstill.
Doesn't look like we're moving anywhere anytime soon.
Whiteout conditions on South Carolina highways, and in Georgia, hazards and headaches for drivers stuck on I-95. Some braving the cold to walk their pets on the highway.
Jeez.
For Southerners, a sight seldom seen.
They closing the roads and everything, so we got to get in.
This icy bridge in Charleston shut down, too treacherous for traffic.
I'm stuck and I can't get on. This is amazing.
Even frigid in the Sunshine State, Tallahassee seeing its first measurable snowfall in 28 years.
It is snowing.
In Florida, 3 water attractions, including the one at Disney World, remain closed today. Major airlines waived change fees for flights in the Northeast and more than a dozen airports in the South.
Is this snow the talk of the ship today? Is this what everybody's talking about?
It is.
A blizzard warning for southeastern Virginia. In Norfolk, the world's largest naval station.
The jet stream coming into the back of this system.
Assessing threats for ships and the planes that land on them.
You must understand your environment if you have any chance of succeeding in any mission.
In New York and New England, rivers are turning to ice, homes battling bursting pipes, and crews spreading salt and sand, combating crippling conditions on their way up.
This is a bombogenesis, which means that we are going to have exceptionally strong winds.
Here in Norfolk, we are expecting heavy snowfall overnight, possibly up to 8 inches, combined with hurricane-force winds. That's before this storm continues north tomorrow morning. Lester?
Katie Beck, thanks. North is where we travel right now. NBC meteorologist Dylan Dreyer is in Boston, where they're expected to get walloped. Dylan, where's this thing going and how much snow are we talking about?
Well, it is headed this way, Lester, and this storm is going to undergo a period of rapid intensification tomorrow. That's the word bombogenesis everybody has been talking about. In the meantime, we have light snow continuing to fall across the Carolinas. We have blizzard warnings extending from North Carolina all the way up into New England. The snow will overspread Virginia tonight, and then we're looking at steadier snow in Philadelphia and New York City tomorrow morning. The heaviest of the snow expected in New England mid-morning, lasting through mid-afternoon. We could see as much as 6 to 9 inches of snow in Norfolk, Virginia, up to 2 to 5 in Philadelphia, 5 to 7 inches in New York City, but closer to a foot of snow here in Boston. And because of that bombogenesis, we could see wind gusts up near 60 miles per hour tomorrow afternoon. That's why we're expecting whiteout conditions and the possibility of widespread power outages and damage. It's also going to usher in some of the coldest temperatures we've seen so far this season. Lester?
All right, Dylan, thanks. And as you were speaking, New York City officials say no school in New York tomorrow because of the snow. The Senate's 2 newest members, a pair of Democrats, have now been sworn in. Doug Jones took the oath of office, accompanied by former Vice President Joe Biden. Jones won last month's contentious special election in Alabama over Roy Moore. Also sworn in today, Minnesota's Tina Smith, replacing Al Franken, who resigned amid sexual harassment allegations. Appearing in court today, the suspect accused of a prank 911 call that ended in the death of an innocent Kansas man. The 28-year-old victim was shot by police on his doorstep in what's now believed to be the first deadly case of its kind in the country. NBC News national correspondent Miguel Almaguer explains.
Number 63 on the extradition calendar.
Tyler Barris's court appearance today was brief. Authorities working to extradite the 25-year-old from Los Angeles to Wichita, where police body camera footage captured the fatal gunshot that killed Andrew Finch when officers responded to his home after this 911 call.
They were arguing and I shot him in the head and he's not breathing anymore.
The call was a hoax. Police say Barris placed it after losing a video game. Finch, who had no connection to Barris, was unarmed and unsuspecting when authorities say he appeared to reach for his waistband.
Like I said, it's an active investigation.
Investigators say Barris has a record of fake calls known as swatting, which can trigger a SWAT-like response. The victim's family says the officer who fired the fatal shot is also to blame.
There was no threat, and the officer shot and killed Andy Finch unjustifiably. Justice is going after the officer that shot that bullet into Andy Finch.
Tonight, a young father is dead.
I keep thinking if this is a dream, I'm going to wake up and he's going to be here.
After a prank call from a stranger 1,300 miles away. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Los Angeles.
There's a lot more to tell you about tonight. Still ahead, high profits inside the new startups that are hoping to capitalize big time on California's new pot gold rush. Also, how all your unwanted holiday gifts are adding up and smashing records today. We'll be back. We're back now with the brand new pot rush in the Golden State. As of January 1st, recreational weed is now legal in California, and a slew of startups are sprouting up and hitting the road to cash in on the cannabis. NBC's Jacob Soboroff takes us along for the ride.
With cannabis now legalized in California, businesses are now springing up that do a lot more than just sell people weed to smoke.
Usually on a day like this, there's 100 to 200 drivers.
Ease is a weed delivery startup and one of hundreds of new pot businesses hoping California's move from medical to recreational pot will pay off.
Simply download our app, and then you're able to shop, and then a delivery driver will arrive on average in around 20 to 30 minutes.
What did you do before you were working with Ease?
I was actually an operations supervisor for UPS.
UPS?
Yeah.
So, Christian, I just noticed as we were talking across the street, there is a UPS delivery truck. There's two of them right there.
Gosh, yeah.
Do you see a day when there's going to be Ease delivery trucks of that size driving around the state of California?
Definitely.
In San Francisco, Scott Peabody and Monica Lowe operate a cannabis catering business from her house.
This is the crushed cannabis that I have put in there, and it's been simmering in here for about 4 hours already.
The amount that you use just depends on how high you want to get?
Yep.
Monica and Scott hope to capitalize on both legal pot and the growing ranks of foodies.
I think with California, where we have so much innovation and there's so much of focus on food, I think we're going to see tons of cannabis-related cuisine.
If you want to incorporate it into your daily life, it should extend to more healthy options.
Are we going to see Jamba Juice with cannabis one day?
I would love that.
You would.
An enthusiasm shared by many so-called weedtrepreneurs who hope selling green means making it too. With $5 billion in legal cannabis sales this year alone, that is lots of money to be made. But with banks hesitant to take cash from businesses still federally illegal, most pot startups, Lester, will remain cash dependent for now.
All right, Jacob, thanks very much. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Coming up, the scare today that brought first responders racing to the home of Bill and Hillary Clinton. Tonight, the Mormon Church is mourning the loss of its leader for nearly a decade. Thomas Monson rose from a young church bishop to president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, considered a prophet by nearly 16 million Mormons around the world. Condolences pouring in today, including from well-known Mormons Mitt Romney and Marie Osmond. Monson died at his home in Salt Lake City. He was 90 years old. A scare today at the home of Bill and Hillary Clinton. Fire erupted at their Chappaqua, New York compound at a Secret Service facility that is not connected to the main house, according to a spokesman for Hillary Clinton. The Secret Service's fire extinguishers were used to suppress the fire, and firefighters assured that it was out. The Clintons were not home. No injuries reported. The cause is unclear. The holiday rush is over, and after the holiday rush, naturally comes the post-holiday rush. An expected record-setting number of returns on their way back to the store, roughly $90 billion worth. By one estimate, UPS expects to move 6 million returns this week and 1.4 million today alone, which they've dubbed National Returns Day. When we come back, Lottery Fever, your shot at a pair of historic $400 million jackpots. Finally, there's still time to get tickets for tonight's massive Powerball drawing. But if you miss out, you can still play Friday's Mega Millions. For the first time ever, both have jackpots over $400 million at the same time. Our Joe Fryer with more now on Lottery Fever ×2.
Much of the country might be shivering beneath a bitter blanket of cold. But winter's worst can't withstand the heat of lottery fever.
The cold weather never stops me. I still keep going and going and going.
Still, it's hard not to dream of a lotto-funded escape.
Hawaii is fabulous. We all would love to be there now.
Tonight's Powerball jackpot is $460 million, while Friday's Mega Millions is now $418 million. So if you can only buy one ticket, which game do you choose? Well, the odds of winning the Powerball are 292 million to 1, slightly better than Mega Millions, 303 million to 1. And for the super greedy, the odds of winning both, 1 in 88 quadrillion. That's 15 zeros.
We have the winning tickets right now.
Low chances.
Very slim.
High hopes.
I am feeling very lucky. I'm oozing with luck.
If you do win the Powerball, what will 460 million get you? How about 46 minutes worth of Super Bowl ads? Or if you really want to beat the cold, you could buy this island in the Bahamas 18 times over. Truly, warm wishes. Joe Fryer, NBC News.
And good luck if you're playing. We appreciate you spending part of your evening with us. That is Nightly News for this Wednesday night. I'm Lester Holt. For all of us at NBC News, thank you for watching and good night.